Hello everybody, Josh here. This past week at our recording session, we ran into multiple technical difficulties that ended up with us not having a new episode ready to go for you this week. Fortunately, I took the opportunity to grab the audio from the FASA Company panel that we did for the Orichalcum convention back in July of 2020. Somebody was kind enough to provide me with the raw files, cleaned up a bunch of background noise and extraneous bits, truncated some of the extended silences that pop up in an online panel like that. And while it's not perfect, it should be reasonably good for you to listen to. It ends up being a little bit over an hour, so about the same length as our regular shows. You get to hear some voices of the other members of the team, not just me. So you'll hear from Kyle and Karol and Morgan and Michael and Andi and all the rest of them, James and Don, the art folks. So I hope you enjoy this. We have sorted out the problems, and we will be back next week with a new episode. If you have any questions or comments, as always, you can email us edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's get into the FASA Company panel from Orichalcum 2020.
Okay, welcome everyone at Orichalcum 4th edition. Yes, you are not wrong, it's 4th edition like the 4th edition of Earthdawn. I'm trying to do my best with my radio voice, which I can't mitigate anymore. So let me introduce you to the FASA team, which are all together for the first international online Earthdawn convention, Orichalcum. Welcome, FASA.
Thank you for having all of us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We heard you.
How do you want us to start? Maybe some introductions from the team?
I think team intros would be good, right?
Yeah, that way they can place a mellifluous voice to the name. And since I'm already talking, I will go first. Many of you actually know me. I'm Josh. I was over there in Poland last year, thanks to the kind invitation of Oraya and Cosmit and the rest of them, and had a wonderful time. And I'm so glad to be involved this year and miss you all. And it would be great at some point in the future to be able to get back there to you.
Hopefully one day it will be possible because Orichalcum was much better with you guys here.
Oh, thanks.
All right. How about Morgan?
I'm Morgan, and I am the principal designer, and that's probably enough for now.
He's so much more, but all right, we'll let him off the hook. Because he did give a lecture yesterday. Karol, our mysterious friend.
Dzień dobry. My name is Karol. I am a member of the Earthdawn team since, 2018? Started maybe late 2017. Along with Kyle and Michael, we, kind of help move the Legends of Barsave series forward. Things for convention play, that living campaign, and we've recently started getting involved in more things, such as Elven Nations, and some of the recent products that have been coming out. So that's been a really exciting arc for all of us, I think. Not to speak for them.
How dare you speak? I'm Michael. Like Karol said, I joined the team 2018. We started working with the Legend of the Barsave product, and we moved on to other source books, so writer, game master, other bits and bobs.
Kyle?
I'm Kyle. Joined up with Michael and Karol, Legends of Barsave stuff, and the first thing that I've been the lead writer on, Empty Thrones, is up on Kickstarter now.
I'd also like to introduce Don.
Hello, I'm Don. I joined the Earthdawn team this year, actually last year, 2019. I was originally the art director and still am the art director for 1879 and created the webcomic graphic novel Penny Pie. And they've tapped me this past year in 2019 and 2020 to create the webcomic and graphic novel based in Earthdawn's sandbox for Champions Challenge. So that's my involvement.
So you are responsible for Ul being dead.
No!
Or at least at the paper.
If you don't like it, it's my fault. If you like it, it's Kyle's fault. See?
I was just the messenger.
I have the great honor of also announcing our newest member, James.
Hi, everybody. I'm James. I'm the new art director of Earthdawn. I joined the team in April of 2020. So I'm super happy and excited to be here meeting everybody.
Andi, and what about you?
She's the cat herder.
She's the Beastmaster.
She's. I don't know about that. However, I've missed all of you, Jen Dobre, and it is great to at least hear from everyone. And I'd like to introduce you to your Earthdawn team, and we hope you have questions.
Answers. I need answers.
They will not give you those.
42.
Oh, we promise no questions. You can ask them now.
Okay, so I was asked one question today, and I need to ask you because I don't know the exact answers. The books about outside of Bersafe, do you have any timeline? I know the Arancia is being written, the Vasgotia too, Creana, if I remember correctly. Could you expand on this?
Yes. We would like to get those done before any of us are dead.
Those are all in various stages of development, but because of the lessons that we learned from the original Kickstarter, we are not going to provide any kind of release dates or specific timeline until they're close to finished and we can say, hey, we're launching a Kickstarter for this next book.
Okay, so you don't want to give us...
How is Viscothia look? Because you're my lead reviewer for Viscothia.
What do you want me to say? What?
Yeah.
I've been working...
coming along? Not a time, but how's it coming along?
Sure, yeah. Vasgothia is coming along really well. I've been working with a new writer, so I've been doing the editing on it. We have some rough draft stuff in, and I'm very excited with the expanded direction that takes what's in the Theron Empire book and runs with it to turn it from one chapter into a full source book. I think over the past year or so, we've gotten a really good handle on it, and we'll be moving forward with it soon. I'm sure you'll hear more before too much longer.
So the Vasgotia is the one that is in the lead of development, or some other?
Vasgotia is the one that I feel most comfortable about them talking about yet.
All right.
Which is not an answer, but still an answer.
Yeah, okay. Any new races in Vasgotia?
Well, if you remember the Theron Empire book, Vasgothia does have quite a few unique races. So one of the things that we're looking into with the book and need to dive into a little bit is whether or not those race options are interesting enough for a player character. And a lot of things as they are presented are a little two-dimensional. So we're working on cool ways to expand them and to make it interesting for, say, someone to play as a leafer. If we can't make it interesting, then we probably won't offer it as an option, but we're hoping that there's a cool way to expand those things and make them relatable.
Will there be a chapter about questers in Vasgotia? And I hope everyone knows why I'm asking this.
Well, it is currently planned for there to be a chapter about the faith and their passions, and we have not fully fleshed out the mechanics or anything yet, but we definitely hope to very deeply dive into what is going on with their passions.
But the story holds still the same, that the passions sacrificed, or you are planning something else?
Their passions, for all intents and purposes, definitely appear to be dead.
Appear to be dead. Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. Oh my God! Any other people have questions? Because FASA will hate me if I will ask more.
As a quick follow-up to that, just as a general rule, we've taken an approach where
we're trying to take an approach with development of stuff that's had previous mention in earlier editions to not go and contradict stuff without good reason. So generally speaking, if you've got a significant thing that's been mentioned about an area like the fate of the passions in Vasgothia, we aren't going to go back and say, oh, that's completely not what happened, generally.
As much as we can.
But you can put an essay from the guy that believes that the passions are alive and don't know what everybody is talking about. And this is why Earthdawn is so great.
Yeah, I think the idea of like unreliable narrators and, presenting a few options that really let players flesh out that universe for themselves with just kind of guidelines rather than, this is the gospel of exactly what happened here. Uncovering the mysteries is such a huge part of the game that I think we want to preserve that.
I could imagine Gospel of Josh.
You really don't want to hear that.
Everybody dies. No, it would be Gospel of Andi. From what I've heard about your sessions.
I do nothing. I just hang out. That's all I do.
Okay, I know I have birthday tomorrow, but I don't want it to be like Cosmid talking to FASA team, but a panel, so maybe some other people would ask questions.
I promise they're friendly. We like questions.
Yeah, we know it.
Well, how about if we ask you guys a question? Are you happy with the direction you're seeing?
Yes.
Yes.
To be honest, yes, and I am more than happy to say that we really see the changing of an art director between the books.
Yeah, James is a lot better than I am.
Oh, Andi, don't sell yourself short. You were doing like 5 jobs all at the same time.
Yeah, but we both know I do not have an artistic eye. Never pretended, never lied about it. You're doing much better than I was doing. I get to claim that I kind of helped pick you, though, so...
Oh, there you go. Thank you for the thank you for the comment. I got sort of thrown into the deep end. By the time I joined the team, Iopos, I think, had already been funded, and I think the very first time I asked the question, when would you like the art to be done? Ross said, well, in a perfect world, the art would already be done. So we had to work on Iopos really fast. We found some new artists, worked with a couple of artists from previous Earthdawn books. I mean, Earthdawn has such an iconic look that it's been quite an experience going through decades of archives, looking at art and trying to find out how best to go forward as well.
Is this rush a reason that there is no Iopos map?
No, I don't have a good answer about the map other than to say I really want to...
I do.
Okay.
Mostly with maps, the thing is that it's finding a good map maker who is available, who has time, that everybody likes, and working it out. So
and fits the budget.
So it's more of a matter of there's no map yet, and I think James might be able to help with this one. The most because of how it's kind of tiered is, I think, an even harder map to find somebody for.
Sure, that's a fair statement. Iopos is the city has a really intense verticality to it. So depicting a top-down, certainly a detailed top-down map. I've seen lots of comments floating around about even a general idea would be helpful. So it's on my radar, and it's just a matter of how best to just to see what we can do about it. But we're definitely gonna take that as a lesson going forward. Everybody likes maps.
I already knew we all like maps. It's just finding the right one. And again, that doesn't mean it won't happen. I think this is more of a yes. At least I feel like it's a yes. What do you think, James?
Here. I like maps too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think an Iopos map should definitely happen.
James?
See what we can do. Hello?
Aurea is the lady who's been doing our LOB map.
Lovely to meet you. I didn't see which square lit up when you talked.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you too.
It's nice to finally hear your voice. Your work on our LOBs has really brought it to life. Thank you so much for all your help.
That's an honor for me, really.
I don't think the guys have actually heard you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Since I asked about it a couple of times, but probably from what you are talking about, the maps in the earliest LOB will be updated in this new Volume 1, Haven Volume 1.
We talked about that at our staff meeting earlier this week, and it is being investigated.
Okay.
I think it's likely, but I don't remember offhand what the final resolution on that was.
I have a time if you need some.
Yep, use Auraya well while she's raising her baby, and still have time.
I believe we're going to try to get you to do some maps for the next one, too.
Okay, since silence is nothing we want, you announced your stretch goal for this campaign, which are character cards. Are there any more stretch goals? And I know that you learned your lesson from the first Kickstarter. I even talked about it in the Hall of Records today, that the first Kickstarter was hard for everybody. But what about stretch goals for this campaign?
Well, because this newest campaign funded and succeeded, I think, as quickly or right around the same as the original campaign, projections are tough about where it's going to end up. And we were talking about what we might be able to do easily, but there are no final decisions that have been made about that yet.
That's not totally true. We had one. The PDF of a certain object.
Oh, okay. If you want to say it, go ahead.
Certain object.
No, I just
Is
wanted
it?
to remind you guys. Because we did come up with it, we were doing it,
Okay.
And I thought even at what point?
Yes, okay. So there has been, as you may recall, one of the stretch goals from the earlier campaign with Mystic Paths, I think it was the poster size map of Bar Save that was in the Game Master's book. We have not yet released a digital version of that yet. So that is something that I had kind of put to the side and have pulled it back in as something to finish up as a stretch goal if we hit, what was it? 20, was it?
Michael? What was it?
We were saying 25.
Okay.
Because the cards are at 20, right?
Yes.
That sounds correct.
Okay.
So it is something that was planned to be done eventually, but got kind of backburnered because of everything else. So it'll be finished up and released when we hit 25 on the current campaign.
And I believe the details on it were when we hit 25, all backers get the PDF, right?
Yeah.
I think that was what it was. Somebody on the team correct me.
That's
That
what we
sounds
said.
right.
Yep. Free download for all backers.
All right. So, one advice from experience with Telarus map: include layers for people that would like to print it without the cities marked.
I will investigate that as a possibility.
Yeah, because to export PDF into a layered PDF, it's not that hard. So, if you need help, you know where to look for me.
You all just heard him volunteer, right?
I volunteer as tribute for you every time. And this is the question that I'm poking around every time I get to speak with you. But 30th anniversary is coming. Are there any plans for something special?
To survive that long.
Come on.
I'm thinking alcohol.
We've got like 2 or 3 years.
Andi and I have started talking about idea.
Okay.
I think in the meantime, it's really just a matter of making sure that we're consistently putting out, source books that are expanding the setting and providing new options to people. So, we're just kind of keeping our heads down and trying to do a good job right now.
Yeah, of course, but with any, I don't know, 30th anniversary edition, you've got all the material already written. I won't say it's just a matter of layout or something, but it's just a matter of layout or something.
The number of times that I have thought to myself, oh, it's just a matter of doing this, and found out that it was more complex than that are too numerous to mention at this point.
Cosmic is an optimist.
Yeah.
Every time.
We like optimists.
But
Speaking of
yes, it is on our radar, and we are talking about ideas so that we have enough of a run-up time for it to happen on time.
I was going to say...
I will not say any more than that.
All right.
Why don't I let some of the guys talk about projects that they are working on a little bit? Michael's working on one. Karol is working on one. You guys already know Kyle's. Morgan, for those of you who missed out yesterday.
Secrets, yeah.
Yep. So why don't I let you guys all talk about... And Josh is working on one. So why don't you guys talk about various projects that you're working on?
Hey, I'll go first. Well, I'm working on an update to the Grand Bazaar outside of Thrall, which I assume everyone knows about. I talked about this at Gen Con last year. The book has kind of reshaped itself a little bit. It's going to be much more focused on NPCs, locations, different businesses, and some some post-Theron War sentiments that have kind of leaking into Thrall, starting with the Bazaar and possibly leading into some other updates in the future.
And it will be about the Grand Bazaar, right? Or the Barcode?
Correct. It'll be completely focused on the Grand Bazaar.
Whoa.
I think you surprised him, Michael.
Yeah. To be honest, yes, I'm surprised because
Well, the first edition material on the Grand Bazaar is always kind of, I don't want to say sketchy, but it wasn't very detailed. There was just kind of some mentions of stuff. There was a lot left open to interpretation. So it seemed like a good place for me to kind of fill in some of the gaps and not completely, give you a street by street, person by person view of it, but to give some color and add some depth.
I was always... Josh?
And I was going to say, and use that as an opportunity to start exploring some of the changes in Thrall in the wake of the Second War and the new royal family and things like that, without tackling an entire Thrall source book.
Right. One of the design philosophies we've had is that we don't want to just reprint old stuff, so we only want to revisit things that are interesting, but then we still also want to have it to be a whole book. So revisiting all of Thrall, a lot of it might be kind of similar, but deep diving into the Grand Bazaar, I think, is a really cool way for us to explore Thrall.
And to everyone's point as well, the idea that we can then touch base on what's happening kind of closer to the core of the world that we know through the previous editions, while still being able to kind of expand out the game context to incorporate new provinces and new parts of the world. That's something that I think was important to us as well. It's not just like bringing shiny new things out in front of people, but touching on what's happening back in the areas people know.
And for example, how pubs changed those areas, because in IOPOS it was already present that the pubs are influenced because of the city.
Right. I think the announcement of empty thrones and so forth had a lot of people recognize some of the dominoes that we had set up and got ready to knock down in asides and references and stuff in some of the in-character material from earlier books that puts a lot of stuff in greater context.
Since we are all fans and we'll get it sooner or later, we are speaking about new projects. I will ask my question later.
Kyle, you want to talk about, or Karol, you want to talk about yours?
Sure. So I'm lead writer currently on Kriana source book. With a lot of the focus on IOPOS this year, that's been a big thing, but I don't know that we have necessarily a timeline for that. But yeah, we're really taking kind of the sparse information that was provided in the Theron Empire book and just really expanding it out so you can host entire campaigns in Kriana, and that comes complete not just with different thematic elements to explore in the world. But also just really getting into detail on just the many ways that Kriana differs from Barsave. Barsave is on the whole fairly sparsely populated, whereas Kriana has these areas that are, they're metropolises. Like, the capital city, I think alone is 500,000 people. So, that influences the way that a lot of different things interact. Hopefully people will enjoy that. And it's also probably the province historically been on the best terms, or among the best terms with the Theran Empire. And so that's going to lend a very different feel to it than kind of the rebellious nature of Barsave province. So hopefully people are excited for a very, very different piece of the fourth world.
Josh?
In now that the creative direction that I was working with Kyle on, as far as a little bit of Iopos and Empty Thrones is put to bed, I am finally able to turn my attention to the Yoruba source book, which I mentioned last year, and actually have a writing partner that I've got working with. He's currently working on another project right now with another company, heading up a book on for the Delta Green Line. But once he's done with that, he's going to be coming back, and we're really going to start off work on Yoruba and really fleshing out and focusing on some stuff with that city, which hasn't received a lot of attention or really been involved in a lot of provincial events in the past. Really explore some ideas there and the social conflicts that exist.
I've got connection issues. Don't worry. Don't mind it.
Okay. And yes, Basti, a little bit of exploring some of the other areas around the shores of the Aras Sea and the people from across the Aras Sea, and bringing back a little bit more of the horrors element that hasn't been quite as much of a focus for some of the recent books, because of the presence of the Abyss of Arasnahem and Ristul and things like that, especially where Yoruba is a city steeped in theater and performance and art, tying in the horrors and, how the idea of art being a defense or indicator of purity kind of ties those themes together pretty nicely. And that's one of the things that we're hoping to be exploring in that book.
Well, I wanted to say that I was trying to find some information about Yoruba, and it's funny because the third edition rulebook has less information than the first edition Serpent River.
Yeah, I found that as well when I was doing my reference searches for mentions of Yoruba and the Aras Sea in first edition source books and so forth. Searchable PDFs are wonderful when you can just put in Yoruba and see how many times it gets mentioned in, a book that doesn't really have it as a focus.
Morgan, I know you talked about it yesterday, but a little bit today?
Yeah, the project I have planned, hopefully for next year, is tentatively titled Magic Deeper Secrets. It's going to delve into expanding the magic in the Earthdawn setting, introducing new types of enchanting that appeared in previous editions but hasn't yet made its return. New spells, new knacks, and more of that.
Okay. Hey, Don, I know that you just kind of wrapped up Champions Challenge, but I guess the question for you would be, have you started thinking about doing a second one?
Well, the good news is that Champions Challenge that I just finished up was Volume 1, and that is The Journey Begin. And as that ensues, is that there's more. When I first working with the Earthdawn team on this, I was instructed to put an outline together, a story and how it continues. So I've only done part of that outline. There's lots more coming, and I gotta say, working with the Earthdawn team on this has been a lot of fun. This is a great team to work with because I've got so much information. It's like, I want to do this. Can I do that? And they're like, well, yeah, that'll work if we do this. And then I'll say, can I do this? And they're like, well, yeah, you can do that if. And so I always get the, well, and then they go, yeah, that'll work. And so it's been fun working with it. And yeah, there's part 2 coming, and that's going to be starting up again as soon as I get caught up on some other FASA artwork that I'm getting done. It's no rest for the wicked, I guess, if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Did I skip anybody, team?
No, I think you got everybody.
Awesome.
Andy,
So maybe
what you are working on?
What am I working on? Well, there was a project I wanted to do, and it kind of got waylaid. So we'll see. Maybe I'll actually get to drag my project back out.
She's working on us and making sure we work as a team.
She's working on a drinking problem. It's fine.
Well, at least you admit you have a problem.
No, I'm working on it. It's not a problem yet.
You're trying to develop it.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I got to put more effort into it.
She's part of the development team. Come on.
Like I mentioned yesterday in my game. I mean, I can drink. I can drink Cosmet under the table, but Bathing I could at least keep heads. So maybe by the time I get to go back out, I can drink Basti under the table. See, I gotta practice.
Build up that muscle.
Yeah,
I just wanted
Josh
to go to
Cosmet
sleep.
lightweight.
It was comfortable there.
She doesn't have a problem. She drinks, she gets drunk, she falls down. No problem.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Me
Okay.
and Basti did not fall down. Me and Basti were up well before everybody else, and we're bright, shiny, happy people. Cosmet, not so much. Josh, not so much.
It is true.
It was allergy. It was allergy.
What was Josh's excuse?
I'm a lightweight.
Yeah. Auraya asked about Great Thera.
Oh, over in the FASA Teams chat, asking if we'll touch on Great Thera, City and Empire, I suppose.
We have not really talked about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like I was saying before, where we don't want to rewrite what's already there, and we only want to explore what's interesting and changing. I think it's clear from the direction of 4th edition that Thera's view of bar save is very different than it once was, but we have to find an interesting hook to turn it into a whole project. So I will say that a little bit of Theran Empire disposition is kind of touched on and danced around in Vascothia, but it's not the focus of the product or anything.
Yeah,
And it's also...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Karol.
Oh, yeah. I think that's something that's going to come up more and more with a lot of individual, Theran-owned or formerly Theran-owned provinces. However that plays out, you'll see updates on that, but it's not necessarily going to be the main focus because those, in part, are defined by their relationship with Thera, at least as we know them already. But yeah, I think pretty much how Kyle said it. There's a lot of scheming and ideas and moves being made in the background, and I think we're aware of how that's kind of playing out from the Theran end. But until there's like a big bold new thing direction wise that lets us have the material for a new book and not just rehash old material, it's still in the shadows.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of Theran adjacent material in one bit of Empty Throne.
This is true.
And I think when we get to after Europa, my next big dream project is the revised Vivane and Skypoint set, which will probably have a bit more Theran connection and influence as well. But that's down the road away.
And what's really great about that is somehow we have to strong arm Ross into letting us make it a box set. Like, I really want to see a box set.
Yep. Like Bersafe box set with all the nations combined.
You dream big. I like that.
You know what's funny? When we had like 20 years of Earthdawn, with every edition reprinting the old stuff, we get bored. But after a couple of years having new stuff, I kind of would like to see refurbishing the old material. Like, the nations are still valid for the 4th edition fluff-wise.
Yeah,
Most-
except
most
where
things.
specifically updated in the GM's guide. I think at this point we're maybe a little bit more comfortable revisiting some of that stuff because we've had enough books come out and the quality of those has demonstrated to new fans as well as returning fans who might have been a little bit disillusioned with some of the stuff in third edition as far as reprints go, to go along with us when we are focusing on something that has been previously we pressed an appreciation for the work we've done thus far, for them to know that it's not a simple cash grab to reprint something.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest observations that I think everybody has made, that you did a really great job and still making it. So you have the full support of the community. And look how the community has grown since the 4th edition. The number of new players is increasing every time. And even in the wake of the Facebook, the forum is still alive with questions.
Yeah, that may be the thing that, if I boil it all down, that I am perhaps proudest of that we have accomplished with 4th edition. And that is, the work of the whole team is putting out quality product by people who, really enjoy and love the setting and want to do right by.
Yeah, and with what you said, probably no one would have a problem if you would make one of the stretch goals in another campaign, for example, to put a reprint, because people trust you.
Well, thanks for saying. I don't know how much Andi wants me to say about this, but I will say one of the projects I'm working on does have the exact same title as a first edition book. So we do know that there's interest there for sure.
Adept's Way or Legends of Versailles?
One thing that we haven't talked about yet is what I'm referring to.
Name givers? Come on, give us something. Give us something.
I feel like the Great Cosmos says that Andi says nope on that one.
Oh, come on. What can you lose? We are small Polish community. Don't mind the all international people here. We won't tell anyone.
The recording that's going to be up.
Okay, so
we'll save it for the drinking session after everything's wrapped up.
All right.
Off the record.
There are some questions in the chat. Cosmic, do you want to read them?
Yeah, of course. What is your sense of... Okay, so Ethereal has a question.
That's great.
A second, yeah, but what is your sense of how the fan base has grown since the original ED4 Kickstarter?
Well, I haven't been involved since the original Kickstarter. I was just a humble backer, but I will say that the sense I get from running conventions back before, pandemic and everything went digital, the sense I had was that a lot of people were still fans of first edition and were coming back to it. And a lot of them were like, oh, I'm bringing my friends who know nothing about this. So I think we have a good mix of old fans and new fans. And I've seen a lot of people be very interested coming back to us, or also just giving us a chance and being very interested in the way the world works in unique ways.
And one thing I'd like to address as well, because I was involved there from the beginning, there was in the sort of early days of that first Kickstarter, and some of the rules changes and updates that we were making for 4th edition came out, there was a contingent of people who were rather skeptical of what was going on. And many of them, not all of them, but many of them have, since the books have come out and developed and they've actually played with the new edition and seen how everything fits together, have been won over to the new edition and have embraced it and started spreading the love of it in a way that I don't remember from my days as a fan and semi-contributor back in the classic and 3rd edition days.
Yeah, because one converted person is sometimes worth more than 5 or 10 fans, because if someone is against something and finally start to appreciate it, it really shows that you did a great job.
Yeah, I remember when the Kickstarter was live and everyone was focused on whether or not removing armor-defeating hits was a good thing. And I think the mechanics of extra successes and all that sort of stuff versus the table of good extraordinary successes has borne out for many of our fans as being a good idea.
Okay, another question. What, Andy?
I was going to ask if a certain someone over there, who we had won over to 4th edition, even though it's in English, had started reading it. Because I believe once he starts reading it, I owe him some 1879 books to further his English. I've not forgotten. I don't know if he's in here. Maybe he is. A certain person in kind of charge of Tilbury?
Jankos?
Yeah.
No, he's counting on us translating the meeting for you, you know.
You tell him I have not forgotten. He's supposed to be working on it.
He is working on it. He's learning English.
Good. Because I'm waiting for him to be better at English than I am at Polish. Won't be hard.
Actually, English is easier, so maybe it will. Okay, another question from Habib, because it was missed by me in the first time. Do you follow the artworks of Earthdawn fans? Do you contact them on your own if you see some postage on the, for example, Earthdawn Guild, or people have to come to you?
I occasionally stalk the DeviantArt, and will post sometimes from there.
Go ahead, James. You're the art guy.
But James, you're in charge of it from that.
Actually, truth be told, because I think maybe I haven't been on the Earthdawn Guild for very long, I have not seen original Earthdawn art, fan art, cross my feed. So I'm going to have to delve a lot deeper. I see Joshua Fontenay's posts all the time. He posts lots of art that he likes, but it's sort of historical or just old school RPG art. So if you want to tag me, send me a direct message. I would love to see what the fans are interested in, and love to see what you guys are doing. And hey, I'm not against the idea of if we see something that we like. Seeing if it's something that we can put in a book, or commission you to do something for the book. I would totally do that.
Since we are mentioning the art, the discussions was held at the FASA Discord about, or it was Earthdawn Guild, about these sketchy arts, and the conclusion were that it is not a problem with the sketchy arts, but that they are gray when the other black. There is some decision about, do you want to stick with the sketchy gray art or switch entirely to the hard black line in development? If you know what I mean, I can clarify.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And part of that has to do with individual artists' styles. Like the pieces that were specifically called out, for example, were the Elementalist and Weaponsmith character sketches in the Disciplines chapter, or the character art, if I'm recalling now off the top of my head, who does tend to have a very loose, sketchy style. And that's a particular style and does in grayscale. And I think part of that just has to do with the way that the particular images might have been set up in the layout files and printing and stuff, so it can give a slightly different impression than some other things. So there were a little bit of some technical aspects of that, especially in those earlier books, might not have been quite so refined.
So moving forward for me, as I imagine Earthdawn art, there is nothing there's nothing timid about lines in Earthdawn art. Everything, I find the strongest Earthdawn art that I've seen tends towards, like I said, the leans more towards black and white rather than the sketchy 50% opacity gray. So that's something that I've actually talked with the artists about for this upcoming book, and we're going to be keeping an eye out for it. It's my own personal preference. When I think about Earthdawn art, I think the really strong blacks and whites just lend themselves better to our format.
If I can chime in about the comic, it's going to stay black and white. I love working.
Habib, those are great. Be honest.
Thank you. Again, with the Earthdawn team and looking at other examples of what's been done and the wealth of information and references out there. I do know that I do look at when I'm trying to create what I want to put into the comic. I do a quick search of what else is out there, what has been done. Of course, being an artist, I try and put my own spin on it, but try to stay true to what is, so that the fans recognize what I've put in. Specifically, Josh was very kind and did a quick search for the Racken that's gracing the last pages of Volume 1. He gave me 3 different examples of different interpretations of the same beast, so that I can incorporate it and put it into the book. And so as far as looking at fan art, as another artist, I have to search and make sure I'm true to what's out there, if that helps.
Okay. Another question.
Didn't you have one earlier that you would hold off on?
Yeah. Who is responsible for killing Ul? But
Andi and I.
But in game, not.
Oh, well, for that you'll have to buy.
I already bought it like for 5 people. Because I'm like dealer of Earthdawn in Poland.
Message me privately and maybe I'll give you a hint. See? I'll be nice.
Like, that's something that's going to be answered relatively soon, so.
Yeah. Anybody who has the PDFs or anybody who has, they show the galley proof when the Kickstarter ends. And you'll know real quick.
Yeah, but it's almost a month.
And you want it now.
I promise you won't die.
I think the real question is, who do you think killed Ul?
That is a very good question. Who do you guys in the audience think killed Ul?
I think it was Outcast, to be honest, himself. Because he didn't like the Ul growing in power. Or probably killing Valurus switched balance between great dragons, because Icewing is supporting Thrall and Outcast is supporting Iopos. If everybody knows that, I hope. Spoiler alert.
I won't say
why.
Oh, that's okay. I will say that you are not incorrect in that whoever it is that went after Ul did so with the Outcast's blessing.
Thought so.
Is that fair to say?
Yes. I'm happy.
That was actually more directed at Kyle and Andi.
Yeah.
I think, it's a little more complicated than just a Dragon Cold War, but I think that what Josh is saying is fair.
I would say that it wasn't against what the Outcast wanted. I don't know that there was ever a direct, yes, go and do that now. At least that's my impression.
One of the... Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, in case anybody was wondering, it is not the new character that is in the comic and a member of the Dinarastis family. She didn't do it. If anybody wanted to...
But it's all her fault anyways.
She just got to break the story. It was very exciting.
Yes, it was very...
Kyle, what do you think? Am I pretty close?
It would be a bold play to walk up to a dragon and say, "Hey, can I kill your strongest servant?" Right?
Yeah. See, I was going to say, I don't feel that, and you can correct me. I do not feel that the person who did it ever got a note going, "Hi, I'm Outcast. Go ahead and kill that."
I also don't feel like they ever actually went up and say, hey, Outcast, can I go do that? But I also don't think that that means that they didn't really have permission either. Because dragons and shit.
Yeah. Nobody sent a cutely folded up note with hearts over the eyes that said, would you kill Uhl for me? Yes, no.
In many things in life, it's easier to get forgiveness than permission.
That is true. One of the things that I'm actually kind of eager for is when the campaign is over and the book is out, my ability to talk about stuff will be loosened, because I would actually like to sit down with Kyle at some point and do like okay, here is stuff that we considered and chucked out for Empty Thrones and why, and here's where these ideas came from, and like talk about the development of like a story advancement campaign book like that, because I think that's something that people would be interested in.
I think that making it before campaign ends, talking about what you didn't include it but considered, could work well for the campaign.
I don't know.
I will say that this is really the first project I've been able to take from like conceptualization all the way to the end. Like I was sort of given the idea like, hey, we want to kill Uhl, how should we make this cool? And sort of ran with it. And it's been very interesting to see how a project like that develops over the months and over like, well, here was the initial idea. We kind of drafted it together, but this isn't working. Let's change this. So a forum to discuss that once the shackles are off would definitely be interesting.
I'm interested that why in Empty Thrones Kratas is mentioned, because I've read the book like 1 month ago, and there is only one person that I know is connected to the Nairastas. So why? What?
Well, don't forget about that S in the title. You know, it's not all going to be about Uhl is dead, or we wouldn't have put that in the advertisement. We can't tell the big twists.
If you kill Alakia, oh my god! Because I was thinking about Alakia because in the Iopos book there were mentioned those flesh forges, and it explained why Alakia wanted the Nairastas' help with the ritual of thorns, at least unofficially, the secret meetings in the Bloodwood. So probably
I love
maybe connected.
I love how fans think. That's what I have to say on that.
It is difficult for me to sagely nod over voice chat, but consider me doing that.
And that's all you're getting.
I will say that the fact that the title is plural is intentional, and that you need to think not just literal thrones, but metaphorical ones as well.
Shush it! That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Josh can shush it.
But you are saying that thrones or thorns?
Oh, thrones.
I know.
Now we need questions from Heather and
But you know what? You should release the book with the typo on the cover with empty thorns and see how people would react if it really turned out to be Alakia.
We realized that our entire campaign write-up and everything had a typo in all of the places that it happened.
Cosmet has been asking questions for other people. If other people want to post questions in the FASA team channel, I think him asking the questions is working pretty well.
That's true. But I would also like to say that we have been known to have a lot of typos.
Are you saying that one book wasn't supposed to be a sour book?
It was not. But, what else? I don't know if they know the sour book story. You want to tell the sour book story?
Basically, the template for the covers early on had a typo. Instead of saying an Earthdawn source book, it missed the C and so said an Earthdawn sour book. And I don't think it got caught until like the third PDF came out and people said, "Hey, wait, what's going on with this?"
And then we had to scramble to get the cover stuff at print. Fun.
Or I think it was a case where it got caught and fixed, but the template didn't get updated, so when we used the template for the next thing, the error returned. Something along those lines.
Well, I think, okay, so what happened is that it was one of the first books I was involved with. And so I'd seen the cover, I missed it, everybody missed it. Apparently,
in fairness,
if anybody remembered it was there before, a certain person was told to fix it, and that person had not fixed it, and nobody really noticed it. It wasn't until it had been out in the hands of the Kickstarter backers that one of them, a non-English speaker, by the way, wasn't even an English speaker, who goes, "Hey, did you know that it's a sour book?" And at this point, the cover was at the printer, and they had to stop really fast before it was produced. Otherwise, you would all have sour books.
In fairness, it is small print in a not particularly strongly contrasting font.
But it was a non-native English speaker who caught it. The rest of it was not a thing.
It was the third printed word in the text, and we all missed it.
It can be very hard for someone when you have been working on a book for months catch your own typos, because your brain will automatically fill in what you expect to see there, even if it's not what's actually.
That's why you need to give PDFs to most loyal fans for proofreading.
Which we do. The number of fixes I had to do for Iopos after we released the initial preview, it's fantastic.
It is wonderful after the Kickstarters are closed how great you guys are at proofreading. Much better than we are.
Because we are the ones that want to find it, and you just want to work it well. It's not that you are lazy, but you are hoping for the best. Yeah, they do that since the Traveler Traveler was the first Kickstarter. But now the Kickstarters are made when the text is ready, and this is one of the greatest things. And other questions, you can write them in Polish if you want. I will translate them to FASA. And the Basti, who speaks English, started to write instead of asking himself. What about campaigns? Basti, what campaigns? Empty thrones are going. Auraya?
Basti says he don't know any campaigns.
Are you talking about campaigns at the table? So support to run a long-term Earthdawn campaign? Is that what the question is?
Wait a moment, please.
Sure.
Basti, come on. You can speak.
Well, hello.
Hey, Basti.
I hope anybody hear me. No, my mistake. I have a small Lucia here, and I forgot that Empty the Thrones is a campaign. So now it will be a second campaign for the 4th edition.
Yeah, I can expand on that a little bit. For those of you familiar with Prelude to War, this does take a similar approach where it's got a number of arcs that can be run independently as shorter campaigns, or you can string it together into a larger campaign. And then on top of that,
I asked about this topic last year, I think, but maybe it's a good topic to ask again.
Sure.
Did you think about contact with other company to make a board game in the Earthdawn?
Board games haven't been discussed as much as maybe we would like to at some point. We've had some companies make overtures about video games, but so far none of them have really come to the table with a solid plan. So not much movement on board game yet, and the video game's been sketchy.
Okay, Ethereal asks, what is your favorite mechanic, the lore or creature that you would like to put in Player's Guide or GM's Guide?
It's a good question. I'm thinking of a lot of lore right now. So many options.
Mystic Paths.
I do think that the Paths expansion to the core rules is so good that to me it feels pretty core now. And if a new edition ever were to come out, I would feel like it is lacking until the Paths showed back up. Not that I'm saying a new edition is coming out. I'm not saying.
I wanted to say that you are very strict about not giving anything about new edition because it's not needed for now.
Yeah, this edition just has its legs. I know it's been several years, but I think all of us at Earthdawn team feel like this edition is just now something that has gained the trust of the fans. We're not about to start a new one.
If you would start a new edition just now, I think it could hangry fans. But fortunately, you are strongly against the game.
That is not on our 30th anniversary plan table for sure. Not what we're doing. I think Mystic Paths, though, what I was trying to say is that Mystic Paths is just a very good mechanic. I also think talent knacks have always been very interesting, but kind of shuffled off to the side. They're difficult to get into the core books, but I feel like there's such a core mechanic that I guess they would be my pick.
I thought that Mystic Paths are considered core rulebook.
But the question was to put it in the player's guide or game master's guide, and that's how I took it at least.
Yeah, I think we, whenever we do any like big mechanical changes like like questers or mystic paths, I mean the goal really is to make it feel as organic a part of the game world as possible. Rather than just like tacked on and very splat book, where it's just like, oh, I just bought this for new stuff. It really has to make sense within the existing framework of, the fourth world. And I think like questers and paths, there's a lot of care taken to make sure that was the case. So they do feel very core. And obviously we have page limits, so we can't like shove everything in there. But like, I do feel like a lot of that, it's pretty seamless, from the core rules to then adding those in. So hopefully, people who play feel that as well.
I would have to say that, and I'm kind of expanding the question to cover the companion as well, that I am kind of most disappointed that named horrors didn't make it into the sort of the 3 core books, just because the write-ups and stuff from them from the original horrors source book are so incredibly flavorful. But that's something that that's sort of material that is now kind of in a place that if we decide to tackle a new horrors-focused source book to bring in not just some additional horrors beyond those, but also some more focused advice on running major horrors as a campaign-style opponent, that's something that is kind of vaguely on my radar of something that can be done at some point in the future, but nobody has been courageous enough to step forward and grab that and say that's the next thing that I am working on.
Do a source book named like Dragons versus Horrors or Godzilla versus Vergigorm.
Have a big picture of Godzilla fighting Cthulhu fighting on the front.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
It's a good question. Is there any interest to create a pre-scorch material to run games for? So like bar safe 1000 or something like this, or 999.
I think that one of the things that 4th edition especially has been particularly good at is talking about what things were like before the Scourge. So I think that we're to some extent providing some resources for people who might be interested in running that kind of a campaign. But I don't want to speak for the whole team, but I think that we are not particularly interested in exploring brand new worlds right now, but expanding the focus on the 4th world.
I think a lot of the resources there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say, I'd like to go back and let Morgan answer the rules question.
For the player's guide and the game master's guide, given the space we had, I don't think there's anything that got missed in those. For the companion, Josh and I have talked about that, and we both agree that it's a tragedy the named horrors didn't make it in there. But the good news is if we, as mentioned, do tackle that, there's about 100 pages of them written, so that is a good start.
Can I just be honest? The horrors book is on the horizon. It's just a matter of deciding who and when.
Yeah. In going forward, what to include from the expanded material we've created in the player's guide and the game master's guide is a difficult question because of time constraint, or not time, space constraints. How much can you include in there? I mean, as much as I'd love to include paths as the base mechanic, given additional space, I'd rather incorporate higher circles and knacks at a more fundamental level than the bigger expansions that require additional lore and a lot more space to really flesh out. I have a deep and abiding love for the questers and paths mechanics for what I hope are obvious reasons.
Is the horror book the one that you said that it will have the same name as the one from the first edition, or it's something additional?
Nope. It's different.
All right.
He's just pulling up a list of all the books, and he's going to run through them one by one.
Yeah, he's got X's marked next to several now.
No, I'm looking at the shelf right now, so...
That honestly seems like something he would do.
He likes to play Clue, and he's trying to figure out if the butler did it in the conservatory.
It was Colonel Mustard. It's always Colonel Mustard.
My feeling...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my feeling about creating content for games before the Scourge, while the sort of history chapters and setting information has provided some info on that, because it hadn't even really occurred to me until now, but if a pre-Scourge campaign setting book were to be developed and I was involved with it, I would like to make sure that it feels different enough from base Earthdawn, like still using the core mechanics, but have it like a different style and flavor and theme from Earthdawn to make it distinctive and have it be something that's worthwhile. What that would look like, I haven't the faintest idea.
Yeah. I think one of the things we enjoy is providing that history and background, partly because certain things might be left kind of unsaid and kind of gaps left open for GMs to fill at their own tables. And then part of the fun, which we think is a big part of Earthdawn, is kind of rediscovering the mysteries of this lost world from before the Scourge. So the focus that we look at, when we're doing adventure or source book design or anything like that, is really on how can elements of the old world influence that mystery delving, that mystery solving for players, and also how those old elements kind of shape the way things are today. I think if someone wants to do a pre-Scourge campaign, I think the rules for adepts are still more or less the way they are. Obviously, magic would look a lot different. It's something that I'd definitely be interested in seeing players, how they would work out. But I think it takes some effort, and we really do want to build out what we have right now, and really enrich the fourth world rather than kind of step back and kind of create a whole new set of understandings for what that would look like.
I know how the discussions would shift if you would let the spellcasters be what they like now before the Scourge, when they don't have to use matrices, and the warriors and sword masters would write on the forums why I'm not useful at combat, why the spellcasters are damage dealers, so the opposite of what is now. When we are approaching the topic of the pre-Scourge, or you wanted to go out for it, I have one question. What are the plans for the pre-Scourge era artifacts like Ivory Codex? Because from what I think, the Book of Harrows and the Ivory Codex weren't the only items from the previous era of Magic.
There aren't any specific plans that I know of. It is one of those things, though, that occasionally pops up. And I think that truly ancient artifacts like those bring a lot more opportunity to really bend, if not outright break, the known rules of magic, but probably not to explore them in any significant depth beyond, hey, here's this thing that does a weird thing and people are interested in it because it's powerful, but understanding it is kind of beyond the, generally speaking, ability of most people to figure out, because it's, for lack of a better term, like alien technology. That doesn't mean it's actually aliens, just means that it operates on completely different principles than people are familiar with. But at the same time, I don't want the setting to be completely dominated by that sort of thing. I'd like to see them as a curiosity that gets dropped in here and there to allow game masters to explore on their own if they want, unless some really compelling story reason presents otherwise.
Yeah, because I'm asking because Travar was, if I remember correctly, the first source book after the original course.
Yes.
And it was like the main maybe not the main focus, but it was the focus of this source book. And I thought that, for example, Elven Nations would also have something like this, and Iopos something like this, like small frame with a secret to explore. And I was sad that there weren't any.
I will say that Iopos totally gives you the opportunity to create that, though. They have a library with all sorts of stuff that people can't usually get their hands onto. If you wanted it, you just put it in there. It's just that we didn't create it for you. So what you're saying is you'd like to see some of those created.
I'm more like Morgan in this approach, that I don't want rules for creation, but I would like to see an examples of the stuff as an inspiration. But it also alien artifacts.
Well, we have these things called blog posts. And so maybe that's something that could be explored in a blog post where if somebody has an idea for it, they let us know, or we come up with an idea and we let you guys know about one. The great thing about having some of the things, like, again, in Iopos, and having that great library with all of the stuff in there, but we don't label it, is we can still put something in the library. So maybe that becomes a blog post sometime and we put something in the library.
Yeah, I think also in the situation with regards to Iopos is that, unlike Travar, which was sort of developed and designed as a base of operations for characters to operate out of, and therefore there are some mysteries that they might explore connected with the history of the city, Iopos is so fundamentally shaped by the Denerastus clan and the Outcast that it requires that had to be the focus, that rather than, here are some other weird, like, not really connected to much magical mysteries that you could explore, everything in Iopos is so fundamentally tied into the clan and what they're up to that it's all, like, I mean, the Flesh Forges are kind of are a mystery sort of along those lines for people from outside, because they don't really know what's going on. The Malachite Throne, there's some information on it, but what it is, where it came from, how does it have the power that it has? The Iopa itself, the strange sort of magical stone crystal structure thing outside the city, presents a little bit of a mystery as well. But everything is so focused in that book on the Denerastus and their interactions and what they're up to, that there just really wasn't as much space to have random mysteries crop up. And Elven Nations is also likewise kind of so informed behind the scenes by the long relationships between the ancient elves and the political and familial infightings between them, that kind of defines a lot of it as well. So, like, where it's appropriate, I think those sorts of things can work really well, but it might not necessarily be the best focus or the best thing to drop into another source book if it doesn't kind of tie in somehow with the other themes and ideas in it.
Okay, any other questions? Nations, Gollum asked about Nation of Bersafe source book. Are there any plans or any nation to have a source book on? Elven Nations was that kind of source book, but continue the old tradition about focusing on one race.
I do think that kind of dovetails with what we've been saying earlier about how like first edition and third edition had a lot of those nation source books, right? Like it had Thrall, it had Carafad, Sky Raiders, all of that.
Serpent River.
Yeah, all of that's still really good stuff. And we don't want, like, we only really want to touch on places where it's different. And we're hoping to get more and more opportunities for us to say, here's how things have changed. So now we can revisit those nation source books. So I think that is something that's on our close horizon here. But that's the reason why you haven't seen one so far. I think we definitely have interest, is what I'm trying to say.
And it's also a matter of figuring out how those would fit into other plans that we have as far as the ongoing development and story of Barsave as a setting, where in one sense, Empty Thrones is like the first indication that we are advancing things after kind of a like actively advancing things, as opposed to like, oh, new edition, we skip the timeline. But like actively that. And so we, need to figure out, okay, well, in the wake of these events and the changes that'll come about as a result of Empty Thrones, what's the next sort of thing that's going to happen in Barsave a year, 2 years of game time down the line? And what can we do as books that will lead into that and that will be sort of the follow-up to that, and kind of getting a plan in place so that we can start dropping seeds and hints early enough so that when we then drop the next big bomb, people can look back and go, oh, here are where they kind of laid the seeds for this. And because one of the things and part of the reason that Earthdawn has been so enduring as a game from the first edition was that sense of ongoing story and campaign development.
Okay, because I'm counting on asking questions when we won't be recording, I must say that I'm out of questions, so we can finish the official part.
Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, be sure to drop them into the FASA team quickly here.
Yep, last chance, guys.
And if you don't think of them till later, many of us are fairly easy to find. Yep. And when Andy's not around, easily bribable.
I know that Andy is not around when you are recording your Survival Guide podcast, so I will hit you there.
All right. I know what's allowed on.
Okay, so since no one is asking questions, I would like to end our first international FASA team Orichalcum convention. Maybe not convention, but the meeting. I invite you to the sessions that are still have seats available for tonight. Those are on our site, and thank you once again for coming, for giving your secrets, your deeper secrets, and for your fantastic work that you are doing to please all the fans, despite them asking questions.
Thank you very much that
Thank you too.
Here with us. It was very nice to hear you.
Thank you for having all of us.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.